lecture over your topic 8.2. We're going to be adding and subtracting rational expressions. It goes with your assignment number 15. A rational expression basically is something that looks like a fraction that has terms in it. So we have some things that we need to do when we're adding and subtracting rational expressions. If you think about normal fractions, like 1/2 plus 1/3, we could not just add the tops because they do not have a common denominator. So what we have to do is figure out what would a common denominator be between 2 and 3, meaning what number can they both go into, which would be 6. 2 and 3 are considered factors of 6. And so if we multiply them together, in a sentence, we can make 6, right? So what we're saying is we could change the denominator to be 6. When we do that, we would have to change the top. So we have to ask ourselves, what would I multiply that first fraction's denominator by to be able to make the new denominator that I said needs to be a 6? I'd have to multiply times 3, so I have to multiply the top times 3. So we're doing the opposite of reducing. We're making that bigger so that the denominator is a 6. Here, we would have to multiply 3 times 2, so we need to multiply the top times 2. 1 times 2 is 2. Now that we have a common denominator, we can add those top numbers if they're like terms, which they are. They're just both numbers. So 3 plus 2 is just simply 5. So that's just kind of an overview of like when you were adding fractions, or say you were subtracting. You could have said 3 minus 2, right? But when we talk about rational expressions, we're going to have things that look like this in the denominator, and we need to know and understand how to find the least common multiple between those terms, which is what we just did to find a 6. That's a least common multiple. A lot of times we can call that a least common denominator, right? So it's actually the same process. When we're finding a common denominator, it's a little bit different than when we're factoring when it comes to the variable part. We're always going to take the largest exponent for the variable part, which again is different. We're making these bigger, not smaller in factoring. So be aware of that. Also, you need to be thinking what number can these, can 4, like looking at example 18, 4, 6, and 10 go into. And so I'm going to teach you kind of an easy way, or what I think is an easy way to do that. And then when you do change that, you need to multiply the top to make it equivalent, just like we did in a regular fraction problem, except for you'll be working with letters as well. So just practicing finding a least common multiple between some terms that have variables, let's look at these 3 terms. These 3 terms, look at the number 4, the number 6, and the number 10. So I like to just look and see if like 4 can go into the biggest number, which it can't. 6 can't go into that biggest number either. I just like to kind of compare the numbers that are given first. Then what I would do, there's a longer process in finding a least common denominator, but what I do is take the smallest number, which is 4, and just start multiplying it times 2, which is 8. I know 6 can't go into 8 and 10 can't go into 8. So I'm multiplying it to see if the other 2 can go into whatever that number it is. What about 4 times 3? 4 times 3 is 12. 6 could go into 12, but 10 could not. So 12 can't be the least common multiple either. 4 times 4 is 16. 6 and 10 can't go into that, so let's move on. 4 times 5 is 20. 10 could go into 20, but 6 could not. So all 3 of them have to go into it. And then we have 4 times 6 is 24. 6 can go into 24, but 10 cannot. 4 times 7 is 28. Again, we can't both go into that. 4 times 8 is 32. Sorry, just had a little blank there. Which, again, 10 can't go into that. 4 times 9 is 36. It might take a little bit. We know they can't go into that. 4 times 10 is 40. Okay, that's not going to work because 6 can't go into it. 4 times 11 is 44. 4 times 12 is 48. 4 times 13 is 52. Not going to work. 4 times 14 is 56. Not going to work. 4 times 15 is 60. And we finally found the number. So sometimes it's not going to take quite as long to do it, but sometimes it does. If you don't know what number all three of those can go into. Again, I think generally it might go a little bit quicker. So what we're doing is when we go through that, I know 4 can go into 60 because 4 times 15 is that. 6 can go into 60, and 10 can go into 60. So we're going to say the least common multiple part for the number part is 60. They have x's and y's. Again, this is not factoring, so if an x appears, you take it even if they don't all have it. And so we also always take the biggest, so it's opposite of factoring. So I have my biggest x is an x squared, and my biggest y is a y squared. Again, if there was a z or something on one of those terms, you would take it. It doesn't have to appear in all of them. If it shows up once, then we use it in our least common multiple. Let's take a look at number 14 or number 19. I honestly do it this way for the most part when I teach it. When you find a least common multiple, you also could do it this way, and I'll show you. You could list the factors of 4. I don't know if you remember a factor tree, but we're thinking what times what makes 4. So 2 times 2. For 15, it's 3 times 5, and for 16, it's 2 times 8, and 2 times 4, and 2 times 2. And so basically what's happening when you do it this way, if you remember finding a least common multiple, is for 4, my factors were 2 squared. For 15, it was 3 times 5, and for 16, it was 2 to the 4th.
Yeah, my name's Robin.